What's up, MFFLs? Harrison Graham and Jeffrey Cooperstein here with another episode of Dallas Mavericks Today. It is mailbag time. And let me just say this. If you want to get in our next mailbag video, use hashtag Mavs and fire away in the comment section. All right, Coop, let's roll.
Let's do it. This one coming in from Chris Foles, who says, Jalen Brunson took a major pay cut in New York. Do you sense that Luka will do the same?
He will be signing a max deal.
He will be signing a max deal. 5 years, $346 million. And if we can talk about the Jalen Brunson thing, Graham knows this whole thing fires me up. I think it's absurd that Brunson took over $100 million less. I don't see Luka doing the same, nor do I blame him one bit for not wanting to do the same.
I think two things can be true. I think, look, good for Brunson if that's what he wants to do. Like, he's got the power to do that. But also, didn't he? It was still basically a max. He just could have gotten a super max next year.
Yeah,
essentially.
So he could have signed 5 for $269, I believe, next season.
And instead, he did 4 for like
4 for $150. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's obviously a lot of money. He deserves props for that, no doubt. But I also hate the narrative, Coop, of like, oh, he did it, you should do it. Like,
that's not
why?
how it works.
That's not how it works. And by the way, let's be real. Yes, Brunson's a max player, but this is kind of an issue in the NBA. I think that like the 17th best player in the NBA can make and sometimes make more than the best player depending on timing. It just doesn't really sit well with me.
I mean, Jason Tatum got the largest extension in history.
It's kind of Jalen Brown before that. It's kind of like the QB thing in the NFL.
The next guy's going to get paid.
The 12th best quarterback, you have to reset the market with him. Why? It doesn't make sense. So I know I kind of teetered off the conversation. The long answer is it would be shocking if he took less, and
now,
it's not expected that
I will say this as well. The new CBA, it is difficult to try to navigate. So, I mean, Brunson doing that does help New York out a lot. But at the same time, it's not the player's job to help the front office manage the salary cap.
No.
So.
Exactly. That's if you're a max player, you get a max deal. That's how it works. Do you guys think he takes a pay cut? Yes or no? I don't. Maybe on the contract after that, when he's into his 30s, maybe by then he's willing to take a little less. But I mean, this next contract could be the biggest one he signed. So we'll see. I don't think it happens, but let us know what you guys think. Big Bob Johnson. Who makes a bigger impact this year, OMax or Hardy? That's a good question. I would like it to be OMax. I'm guessing it's Hardy.
That's what I think,
But
too.
I also don't expect either guy to play major roles.
So I put this on our community tab earlier to kind of gauge the audience, and 74% of people on our community tab said Jaden Hardy.
I think that's fair. Like, we got to tell it how we've seen it. In a playoff run, in 2 of the 4 series, he positively impacted the Mavs, whereas OMax, I know he had a sprained ankle, but he wouldn't have been playing anyway. He was not in the rotation.
And OMax in Summer League, I would say disappointed a little bit. I don't think he's as ready as we might have thought he was going to be coming into year 2. So I would also have to say Hardy. Long term, I would want to say OMax, but I think we do have to see some more growth from him before he even gets on the court, let alone has a bigger impact than a guy who's
and it's okay if he doesn't have a huge impact this year. He's in year 2. He's still young. And he's young on a team that's loaded now.
Yep.
Like, if he was on the Mavs roster 2 years ago, he'd probably be in the rotation because that team was pretty shitty. But now it's like, even if he was developing nicely, would he be in the rotation? I'm not sure he would. So I think Hardy has a better chance, but we'll see if OMax can continue to develop here. All right, guys, hit that subscribe button. We will continue to cover all the Mavericks news and rumors that circulate throughout the offseason. Training camp will be here next month, so it's getting closer and closer. Hit that sub button. Lock us in on to Dallas Mavericks Today. Thumpa43, does Klay signing with the Mavs open the door to bigger free agent deals down the road? It certainly doesn't hurt, especially if it works out, right? Like, if he comes in here, plays well, fits in with Luka, especially with him expected to have another decade plus here, I do think that opens the door for other, even if it's not superstars, like good players be like, hey, I can go thrive in Dallas and play with Luka too. So, yeah, I mean, I think that signing was significant for a lot of reasons.
It only takes one to open the floodgates, and we know the Mavs have been kind of chasing that big fish free agent, so to speak, for over a decade. They finally get it here in Klay Thompson. So I think if it works out, it certainly opens the door to all kinds of possibilities, and I think the Mavs have shown that they're not afraid to get creative and try to get guys in here that maybe you would never have thought would be donning a Mavericks uniform. So I absolutely think this is a landmark signing for the Mavs, if you will, as far as being at the top of the free agent player list every summer. I think it's huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially if it goes well, this could be a turning point of like Dallas is a legitimate free agent destination. Whereas, I think Mavs fans kind of wanted to convince themselves it was for a long time, but the evidence
Never was.
The evidence proved otherwise. So this feels significant, and we'll see in the years to come if that continues to be the case. Adam Thornhill says, now that the roster is pretty much set, do you have a record prediction for this year? What did they go, 52-30 last year?
50-32.
50-32. They were 50-30, and they sat their guys last two games. So, I mean, I think you need to be thinking for sure 50-plus again. I mean, I think 50 is kind of the baseline now, assuming there's no major injuries.
That was kind of my thought as well. I think this is a 50-plus win team.
Can you get to 55? I think that's possible.
Yeah, I think your goal for the regular season is to get a top 4 seed in the West. Yeah. Whether that's 55, 53, whatever the case may be, I think that's your goal. And look, they won 50 games last year, and they got to it in a roundabout way. This team just looks so much better and so much more well-constructed that from the start, I think they're going to win a lot of games, so I think it'll be easier to get to 50. That being said, it's never easy to get to 50 wins in the NBA, especially with how good all these teams are now, especially in the West. But I do think like 55 wins is probably realistic. Ceiling of like 58? Could they get to 60?
60
I don't think
60
so.
feels rich. I mean, you just don't see many teams do that anymore because teams rest guys. And, even if when stars are playing, sometimes they're not going full throttle until closer to playoff time. So I think you're probably looking at floor 48, ceiling 56 or so. It's somewhere in that window, assuming there's not a major injury. I would expect low 50s. Like 52-30, it feels kind of right on the money. I think, and if you do that, I think if you're 51, 52 wins, you're probably a top 4 in the West. And I think the Mavs have shown in these 2 playoff runs in the last 3 years now that as long as you can avoid the play-in, they're comfortable playing on the road.
They've been better on the road.
Yeah, so they don't even have to chase the number 1 seed. So, go win 50 games, be a top 4, top 5, and get ready to play some ball. Predict the record for the Mavericks this year. What say you? Let us know in the comment section down below. And again, fire off any more mailbag questions that you have. We'll try to get those answered next week here on Dallas Mavericks Today.
See you guys.